Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coaches Corner University podcast. I'm your host, Paul O'Need, and today I'm joined by a very large Asian man, Mr. Andy Huang. Andy, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Hello, everybody.
It's my pleasure. You're basically saying hello to six people and my mom,
Okay.
so we'll be
Hello,
sure
Paul.
to.
Hey, Paul's mom.
um, so I doubt there's very many people who listen to the podcast that don't know who you are. Um, Coach, powerlifter, business owner. You want to give a little bit of a background on who you are and how you got here today?
Okay, yeah. So currently, yeah, I'm part owner of Iron Rebel. I became an owner about four almost 5 years ago. I started out originally as just an athlete, and then I was living in Louisiana at the time, and I wanted to move back to California. That's where I grew up. But I kind of needed, because at the time I was a personal trainer and coach, but I kind of needed something a little more with some stability and just something to help me transition because I was personal training at the time, and I had to like start over as far as clients if I wanted to do that. So as an athlete, I had a good relationship with the owners of Iron Rebel, and I asked them, if there's something I could do like that's with under their business, and yeah, they allowed me to just start with like the social media and help with some marketing, and then eventually just working my way up, and then became an owner. And then now, so I have that with Iron Rebel, and then me and John Hack have a oh sorry, let me turn that off. Have a workout app. It's primarily powerlifting uh, specific, but you don't have to compete or do powerlifting to use it. And then I do coaching. I have a limited number of one-on-one coaches or coaching clients, and then what else? I do have some projects in China that's going on, launching my own brand there, and then I'm just working because my Chinese is very basic. I have probably the vocab and understanding of a not understanding, but vocab of a kindergartner. Um, so I'm currently taking Chinese lessons to improve that because it's just only going to help me with like doing more content there and speaking Chinese better with different influencers and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind
Because
of
you
what
just
I have going on.
you just went over and competed in China.
I did that last year, yeah, last
Yeah,
November.
how was
That was
that?
well, that was more of a it was a guest lift thing. Like it wasn't like I wasn't going there to really compete against anybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they whatever paid me to go. But
How
yeah,
was that experience?
it was amazing. So I also might do some. I'm also a meet director, so I might do some meets there. They are a little. I wouldn't say unorganized, but they don't do things as efficiently as our powerlifting meets here. And I think they just need more guidance and more direct help, which I really want to provide that. But yeah, powerlifting is slowly growing there. Um, it's great for people who it's not based on your size, right? You don't have to have like bodybuilding. You don't have to have like, the biggest muscles, the biggest person to do well. It's weight class dependent. So anybody who's strong for their weight class, they can do very well. And not everybody wants to do weightlifting, which has always been like the more predominant lifting sport there. So it's definitely growing along with bodybuilding. So it's a good time for me to do some stuff there and help grow the sport there.
So I mentioned before we started the podcast, like I I operate a business mentorship with coaches. I do a lot of continuing education with coaches, and part of what I try to showcase with the podcast is the many number of ways that coaches can build businesses, scale income, and ultimately impact people. Uh, the prospect of branching out internationally, for me as a Canadian, internationally was, oh, I'm just going to sell to U.S. clients,
Yes.
and very rarely do you hear about anyone in the powerlifting space or even the bodybuilding space for that matter saying, hey, I'm going to go launch a business in China or I'm going to launch Europe, maybe, but that seems really novel. How did that opportunity come about?
Well, luckily my wife is from China, so she's very fluent. She helps me with everything, like as far especially translating stuff. But It's just honestly, a lot of people just approach me. It's no different than like brand deals or sponsorships. But I think part of it is they want to get more American powerlifting gear apparel there, because it's more novel, it's more exotic, so it's more exciting to get something from America versus something Chinese made. Um, but the problem is, people who want to distribute there or get it there, it takes a lot of money to just ship it there, and whatever the margins are a little smaller. And right now, with China's economy and stuff, they're not going to want to pay $30 for a T-shirt. They're more like $18-$20 for a T-shirt. So a lot of companies aren't going to want to either spend the money that costs to for existence get an Iron Rebel product there. It just takes a lot of money, and then they have to mark it up, and then so it doesn't sell as well. So I think a lot of them just approach me to create that, either whether it's my own style or create something new, that is. And also, I do have a big name in China. Um, as until like a month ago, I was deemed the unofficial official title of strongest Chinese born, not yeah, Chinese descent powerlifter in history. So that has that yeah, that has
That's
a lot of
pretty
clout.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that has a lot of clout. So so it's just advantageous for all these companies to align with me, and I just talk to a lot of them. And we've lined up with one that is going to do a lot of the work for us because I can't be there. And we just share ideas and how to build new products and stuff.
So, dude, first of all, you're being super modest, which not really serving my goal here, because I think you have to give credit where credit's due. And I mean, you say, oh, companies just approach me. There's a reason for that. And I think other coaches could definitely take some value into is you've been someone who's collaborated with people kind of your whole career, whether it be collaborating with Iron Rebel and becoming an owner of multiple ownership partners there, collaborating with John and Proven, collaborating with other companies as a brand ambassador. Do you think there's anything special that you've done? Has that been conscious? What has allowed you to like seek these collaborative opportunities and more so like maximize them to the fullest?
Yeah, I think number one, I've always had a entrepreneur mentality, and and within that, I've kind of learned or at least adapted the idea that like networking is a big thing, and to be good at networking, you have to in a way like learn to speak and connect with people that you can be very fluid and adjust your conversations and your personality to whoever you're talking to. And I mean, I know just I just try. I'm very mellow, very down to earth, and I've tried to just always develop relationships. I guess I mean, obviously you being a coach, and I've been a personal trainer and a coach, and you talk to people one on one, and they come from all different walks of life, so you learn to how to like communicate and meet them at their level. And I think I've tried to do that with everyone I meet in the sport of powerlifting. And I've also learned to just kind of stay in my lane. And what my lane in my whole life is everything powerlifting. So everything from being a ref, now meet directing, um, selling apparel, selling gear, the e-commerce side, and obviously being an athlete, and then being a coach. So I feel like I've just kind of stayed within my zone within the sport of powerlifting, but also, you know, been an open book and been very good at seeking other people who are experts and just asking them their advice, and having them help tutor me or mentor me. Um, so I think that's just how I've approached, and I think it was partly it is strategic. I just me in life, I don't try to cause any drama, any unnecessary drama. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
Drama's everywhere, and I mean, when you're dealing with multiple personalities across multiple different companies or arrangements, it becomes tough to manage. So I mean, one of the next questions would definitely be, how do you manage all of these responsibilities and all of these different aspects? Like any sort of time management tools or prioritization strategies that you implement?
Yeah, I'm very much a guy of routine. So like throughout the day, like my morning starts with this company, and then once I've gotten the priority of emails or things I need to do with mostly Iron Rebel, that takes up most of my time. But it's not like I have to be you know deep dive into like everything Iron Rebel for 6 7 hours straight a day. There's a time after the morning when I've taken care of the most higher priority things, that and then I can move on to other things. And I'm not very good at multitasking. I'd rather do everything start to finish, then move on to the next thing. And on top of that, I'm also very good at like not procrastinating on things. So the moment I have a project, I start to end, do the next thing. I don't like jump around. Um, and then as far as like, so that's Iron Rebel. And then as far as like coaching, you have to, while I am accessible to my clients throughout the day, I set a time to answer them back. So kind of like late afternoon after I'm done with Iron Rebel stuff, I do a lot of client stuff. And that's just like answering feedback on videos and they send me questions, whatever. But also, I don't coach that many people, so handling 12 to 15 athletes, it's not too hard.
Well, that's on
Um,
purpose, right? Because you
yeah,
don't
it's
want to
on purpose. I
over
just don't.
promise and under deliver.
Yeah, I can't spread myself that thin. Um, but yeah, I don't have any like crazy strategies. Like I said, I just prioritize. My day is just routine, and I prioritize what I'm doing at that time, and then everything else can wait.
The thing is that's not fancy, but it works, and it works every time. It's the same way that I manage my time as well. Like I book my entire schedule all day, every day is routine. I train at the same times every day. I do client check-ins at the same times every day. I do, my education stuff at the same times every day. I open up certain slots for podcasts a couple times a week. So I'm not at the mercy of my schedule. I'm the one who orchestrates it.
Yeah,
And like you, like I don't have as many projects as you on the go, but if I'm a coach, if I'm a mentor, if I'm doing continuing education, I'm writing courses and all these other things, selfishly I also still want to train 3 hours 5 days a week,
right.
and do my
Yeah.
cardio and train for a bodybuilding show and all that stuff. So like if I want to do those things, I have to be regimented with my time. And I think that's a big adjustment for people going into the entrepreneurship space where you don't have a boss. Like if you don't want to do the work, don't do the work, but you can't expect to get the payoff at the end, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think too. It's like some people don't mind having some complaints or not delivering the best quality service, right? So it's kind of it's kind of there's bad apples out there, good and bad.
Have you been conscious of that as you've grown? Because I think it's almost like a meme at this point where you have the quote unquote influencer who sells stock programs and calls it one-on-one coaching and does all this stuff. Like how do you manage expectations of people that come in and want to work with you, whether as a coach or with the app or in business? Like is that something that you're upfront right away with, like, hey, this is what you can expect from me? Or how do you manage those expectations?
Yeah, I'm pretty upfront, especially like we'll take coach one-on-one coaching for example. I am not an overly, it's a part of my personality. I'm not an overly like you know ha- do an explanation as I have a whole essay ready. I'm more of the if you're not doing anything wrong, I'm not going to say anything. So I make sure like also like when I'm talking to a potential client, there's a questionnaire they fill out, and then what we some of them will get on a phone call if they have a lot of questions. But I tell them like the kind of my coaching style, my personality style. If you want feedback on a tricep extension every time, that's not going to be me. Uh, so yeah, that definitely there's that's that when I with clients I tell them up front. Um, and then with Proven, yeah, me and John have a system with Proven. There's not a lot of upkeep except our Discord. We just answer, we have a community and they answer or they ask questions and John primarily takes care of that. So like that's kind of like we've delve out our duties. I'm more of the content, and we sell products and stuff like that. But I think also because like with Iron Rebel, I've done customer service for like 7 years, so I'm pretty. It's matured me a lot in having patience and saying the right things instead of what I really want to say with customers. So yeah, it's taught me to be a lot more diplomatic in my responses and stuff.
What would you say has been the biggest learning opportunity for you in your business journey? Because I mean, when I first became aware of you, I knew you more as an athlete, right? Back in like 2016, 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And then now you just exploded and grown in many different ways. What would you say is the biggest thing you've learned that has led to the most success?
I definitely think me joining Iron Rebel as a employee has taught me the most. Just learning the whole like more corporate side of things, and how a real business is done. Prior to that, I've just been a personal trainer. I was a massage therapist, and and powerlifting coach. So a lot of that is just I'm my own boss, set your own schedule, and there's not too much corporate rules and guidelines there. You just have a schedule, have a payment system, and stuff like that. So Iron Rebels taught me like like everything from operations, because I handle operations. So like dealing with manufacturers, inventory, shipping. We have a fulfillment center, dealing with fulfillment center orders, customers. All these things have let me see different side, the deeper side of business and how it's ran, and e-commerce and stuff. And then going to booths, so doing business in person. That's another experience. um, so yeah, I definitely attribute all that to Iron Rebel, and helping me expand on my business knowledge.
I love that. Yeah, it strikes me as like you being someone who is never one to know he has all the answers.
Right.
Like, yeah, you seem to be very open to say, "Hey, I don't know, but I'll find the answer." And I think that's a really, really important trait to have as an entrepreneur, because very rarely, when you're faced with a new challenge, which you get all the time, will you know the answers to like the best way to accomplish something. And when you're surrounded by, when you came into Iron Rebel, it was already an established company. So I'm sure you learned a ton from the owners. And then
Yeah.
I'm sure you're learning, I don't I'm assuming you're learning stuff from John along the way. I don't know his background. I've never really spoken to him. Um, and in this new venture, I'm sure you're going to learn stuff from the people over in China, and it's just going to allow you to grow more.
Yeah, it's like doing in China is learning to deal with a different market, and how they do business there. But yeah, I've always utilized whatever connections I have. Even as a coach, I don't know the answers to everything, especially like sumo, for example. I don't pull sumo. I'm not the best with sumo, high level corrections. So I reach out to other coaches that I know, like Trevor Jaffe's a resource I use all the time, and he has such great information. So my ego is not too big to ask for help. I definitely have adopted that humble, always learning mentality.
Let's shift gears a little bit, because you've gone through a very interesting trajectory as a power lifter. You like, how old are you now?
I'll be 41 in August.
And you're still actively competing at a very high level. Okay, so that in and of itself is something that's very rare.
Well, I've been planning to retire for 3 years, so
Well, before I was quote unquote forced to retire, I
yeah,
planned on retiring quite a few times.
yeah,
Um, Talk to me a little bit about, like, you had this big, massive rise, and then a string of injuries, and then you managed to like almost rebuild, get injured again, rebuild, get injured again. Number one, how did you find the fortitude to just say, I'm not done yet?
um, yeah. I don't. It's not. It's never been like one thing that that just pushes me. I think I think, throughout my injuries, they've always been, I've had some serious ones, but honestly, none of them require surgery. I did fully tear my right growing adductor, but I I went to the doctor and they said, you can have surgery, or you can just kind of leave it and it'll kind of heal on its own. It just take a long time and you might never be the same. And at the time, I was just okay with just letting it heal on its own. I didn't get surgery, and luckily that healed fine. So all of my injuries, like I said, haven't required surgery. So they were just not quote unquote serious enough for it to like dissuade me. But I think regardless, even if I had a very serious injury, it's just been my life. Lifting weights and competing has been my life since I was 15. So for over 25 years, I've been competing and lifting, and it's in my DNA. It's my lifestyle. I don't know anything other than that. And as long as I was, through all those injuries, making the making the rehab and the comeback, I was always making progress, and I was able to get to a point where I was back to where I used to be prior to injuries, and then start making progress. And then another injury happens, but I was, I don't know, it was just something that I've never been able to just stop doing yet. I still had the drive and the motivation, and there was just some things I had left to wanted to accomplish, and as long as I was capable of it, and my motivation was still there, and my body would still, you know, slowly let me come back. I was going to do it. Now, nowadays, though, I am like one more goal away, and I also promised my wife that I'd be done after this year, because just looking at my health and my body, and just the things I want to do outside of powerlifting, it's just time. And I unfortunately, like, I competed in April. It was going to be my last meet, but I didn't have a good meet, and I told her, as long as I have a good meet, I'll retire. But I haven't had that yet, so not yet. But I, I I was slightly injured for it, so I think I have one more good meet in me, and I'll be retiring. But yeah, I just think that I don't know. I didn't know anything else but just compete and just come back.
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight because, like, so for me, I, I was top ten all time at one point in two different weight classes. Achieved a great amount of success, but I always tied my identity to weightlifting and powerlifting,
Yeah,
and the injuries kind of took that away from me. It took away my ability to identify so strongly with it because I knew it was so fleeting. And when I tore both quads, I remember I actually messaged Ken and I was like, "Bro, how'd you come back? Like, what's going
yeah,
on here? What do I got to
yeah,
do?"
yeah,
But what I realized was that I didn't identify as a power lifter anymore, and
yeah.
so walking away, I was like, "Oh, like I don't need this. I don't need powerlifting anymore."
No,
And and for me, I kind of got the reflection was the only thing I really care about is training hard. And if I want to keep training hard and have a goal, well, I can go do bodybuilding and still train really, really hard and have another goal. I might really suck at bodybuilding because I'm built like a square. So I'm not really going to do well, but I can seek some sort of progression in just a way more safe manner. And that was kind of my thought process with the retirement was like, I don't have to do this anymore. I don't have to. That have to wasn't there. And I mean, you can attest to it. If you're going to step under 800 pounds, there has to be a no, like you can't have any fear.
yeah, yeah. Like you said, it doesn't have. It's not your identity anymore. And I wear so many different hats now, and my identity is spread out. It's not just Andy the lifter anymore. And I've slowly come to realize that, and accept that. I'm fine with that, because I've never been, you know, number one, number two all time on anything. I've always been one of the top, and I'm okay with that. And other than a personal number to reach for me, there's not much else left for me to try and keep pushing my body. And what you were just saying. Yeah, it's the the amount of times I look forward to going to the gym nowadays, it's way less than it used to be. It just, when I have to go in and hit certain numbers, I'm just like, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to put 6, 7, 800 pounds on my back today. So those workouts, those times when I'm dreading workouts, it's more often than not now. And I know when that's happening, it's almost time.
Yeah. Uh,
And like I said, when I said I was going to retire 3 years ago, it's because I my all these injuries, all my progress really kind of plateaued. But then all of a sudden, one good training cycle, and my numbers started PRing. I'm like, oh, here we go. Finally, after 5, 6 years of no progress. And so it kind of just that carrot just came back and just kept driving me. And for the last 3 years, I've been able to make some progress on my squats. Now my other two haven't been great, but my total has gone up, and I've stayed consistent with the other two, and my squat has been going up still. So it's kind of a like an up and down journey, but I know for sure like I just have one more meet in me and I'm done. Yeah.
so I don't think I've ever said this on the podcast, but one of the reasons I haven't squatted since my injury
Yeah.
literally has nothing to do with me being afraid, has nothing to do with me thinking I couldn't do it. It's the fact that I know I could, and I know that if I did it, I would want to do more of it. And I
Yes.
can't. I just took the carrot off the plate. Like there's no more carrot. I'm just not back squatting ever
Yeah. What kind of squats do you do now instead, or squat movements?
A lot of pendulum squats, hack squats, leg presses, like,
Yeah.
and my numbers on those lifts are all way higher than they used to be. So it's like I'm still strong. So,
Yeah.
and I know that if I put a bar on my back, I would still be strong. Like I know for a fact I could still squat over 500 right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do I need to do that? Like, to whom do I have to prove? You know,
Yeah.
that's the question I ask myself.
Yeah. And then for me, like in 5, 10 years, if I don't ever want to squat anymore, I can always there's social media. There's receipts now. I can just show people. I don't have to like do it I don't have to do it as a 60-year-old or show
There's
people.
receipts.
You
I
know.
like that. Does does the thought ever come to your mind? I'm sure it has, but like, if I give up competing, will that take away from my ability to do business?
I know now it doesn't. But I think, yeah, 2, 3 years ago, I think it was always dependent on like me staying quote unquote relevant, and being, going to these bigger meets, being seen, all that stuff. But now I know I can be seen in other areas, and not everybody who powerlifts or even doesn't powerlift is influenced by the top 0.01%. And not everybody, yeah, not everybody's going into powerlifting to be the world record holder. If just my journey of perseverance and going through injuries that helps, that's great. Or if someone wants to be a businessman and turn fitness into a living, I've tried to do that. If someone wants to go into meet directing or being a ref or just being involved, I've done that. So I think, or coaching. So I just think, I can still be, quote unquote, be relevant by providing content and just be an example of everything I do.
On the subject of content, talk to me a little bit about how you've leveraged social media in the business sense.
I think in the beginning it was just, I mean, I started a while ago, and when I started it was probably 2016, 17. So it was very, I just started from zero, and just slowly worked my way up. I've always been one to not like to just to be myself. So powerlifters, for the most part, they're thought of like these really serious, intense, mean, um,
That's not you.
yeah, mean people. Whereas outside of the 10 seconds I'm lifting, I'm pretty much very down to earth, a goofball, and a lot of these funny videos that I make, that I just think on the spot, or I might see a trend or something, and it just seems like something fun to do. But
Yeah, like, hey Ken,
it's
go slap me on the ass of the band.
yeah, and it's all within my humor, my personality, my comfort level. I try to not do anything that isn't me, and I think that's all you can ask as far as social media, because you don't want to be something you're not. Otherwise, it's such a job and such a chore to be creative and be funny and be this and that if that's not part of your normal natural behavior. But as far as leveraging, I don't even think I'm great at it. I think I'm just, like I said, I'm just being myself and post whenever I want. I don't have like a strategy of like post this
Yeah,
amount this much.
that was gonna be my next question. Is like, is there a strategy that you've used?
The Not for me. I mean, for me, it's just like I want to give a you can't just be, as a powerlifter, you can't just only post your lifts, SBD, 5 times a week throughout the year. That gets boring. Even if you're strong, even if you're super strong, it doesn't matter. You need some other content. Um, I mean, you can get some followers, but it's not going to grow to be something amazing, or unless you're like John Hacker or something. But even then,
There can be only one John Hack.
well, for example, and I'm not picking on Dennis Cornelius, but if you hear me, Dennis,
Oh my
I'm
god!
not picking on you. I'm just telling you,
I
Dennis is,
guarantee you he won't hear this.
yeah, I know. Dennis is like, he's multiple world champion IPF, one of the strongest, freakiest guys I know.
Oh
This
yeah,
guy is a father. He's older. He only trains like 2-3 days a week. He drinks beer all the time. He lives in his garage barefoot, like, and he's freakishly strong as a powerlifter, but he really doesn't post anything else, and he's very quiet and doesn't do interviews, so you don't know his personality. So he's never been one to have a great social media following, and I say that because like he was one of our athletes, so I that was something we had to like consider as we move forward with getting more athletes that would help us grow in our business.
well, I mean, I don't have a clothing sponsor, and I live in the U.S. now, so I mean, just throwing the hat in the ring.
Hey,
Um,
I know you were wearing our stuff back in the day, so, or not
I still
still.
wear your stuff.
Yeah, still. It's just you're in Canada, it was harder to get stuff there.
Yeah, and I mean, I was sponsored by Jordy and Bacon and Barbells, so bit of a conflict. Um, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think as coaches, okay, so let's put our coach hat on. Okay, we're trying to build a coaching business. I think one of the most important things you can do as a coach is have a personal brand, right? So, yes, I own Master Athletic Performance, and we have my wife and 5 other coaches that are coaches for our brand. And Master Athletic Performance to me has never really taken off as a brand because it's always been associated with me or with my wife. And that's a problem when you're looking to scale. The company has to exist on its own. But now I'm in a position where we're trying to separate the business and we're trying to separate our personal brands. And I've done a lot of introspection looking at like, okay, how do I want to be known? How do I want to represent myself? And I always come back to I want to be known as who I am. When you are giving advice to athletes or people maybe that are sponsored by Iron Rebel or people that you speak to, what are some pieces of advice that you can give on building that personal brand?
Well, like I mentioned, it comes down to being yourself and not trying to be someone else. Um, I think you have to kind of pick a lane and see what you're more comfortable with. Like if you're an athlete or a coach and you want to be more informational, then you got to provide good free information that people are going to be receptive to and really value. Or you be entertaining, so be funny, or well, pretty much funny works.
Yeah, funny or
Yeah,
shocking,
or be strong,
cringy.
or or be hot, or or be strong, and just or have a combination of that. And I think that's how, like you said, that's how do you want to be remembered. You want to be remembered as someone who's knowledgeable and entertaining and fun and strong. Then yeah, that's what you kind of have to be. You also have to, a lot of it too, you have to get over your fear of like speaking and um, being a little more open, sharing more about yourself, building value. Also, you have to build a relationship with your following, and to do that, you have to open up, be vulnerable, share more personal stuff. Don't not ultra vulnerable, but that's why these. It's funny. I don't really see the point, or it doesn't really you know get my interest that high. But these like getting ready with me or a day in a life. Um, but I see how a lot of people, other people who, because I already have a routine. I already know I know like the value of routine, and I have my routine. But I'm sure I learned that from other people. But I think I know a lot of people who are getting started. They don't know what it takes to be successful or what habits. So getting ready with me or a day in the life kind of does give insight and give them values or give them valuable information that could help them. So, like I said, connecting with your audience and seeing how you can reach them personally and develop this like because you want to get to a point where like they root for you.
Yeah,
Like all my injuries, I come back. I so many people are like, "Oh my god, it's so amazing," or stay strong, keep going. We know you got this. So like, that's how you develop that. You have to share things about your life that they can connect to and be interested, invested in.
it's funny. I was whenever you got injured, I was like, man, just fucking give it up, buddy.
I
No,
did too.
I know. I totally agree. It's something that I feel like some people have and some people don't. Like some people have
Yeah,
to learn how to do that. Um, and I think each one of us has something about us that makes us special. And once you figure out how to showcase truly what makes you special, I think that's when things are going to take off. I've, to be fair, if I didn't own an online business, I probably wouldn't have social media.
yeah,
Um, it's just not something that I'm super excited about, but I know it's part of business. And for me, I always want to be able to provide value. And a lot of the times when I'm providing value, I'm conscious of the fact that, hey, this probably isn't going to go viral. Hey, this probably isn't super shareable. It's not super exciting. But for my personal brand, I don't care
yeah,
because even with 10,000 followers, the income that I make from those 10,000 followers, which let's be real, the income you make from your followers is more important than how many followers you have. My followers have never limited my ability to make money.
yeah,
So as long as I'm resonating with the people that are going to pay me, I'm good. And so the advice that I give to a lot of the coaches is if you have 2,000 followers, that's 2,000 potential people who could pay you money. And if I told you, hey, right now there's 2,000 people who want to pay you $100 a month, that's a pretty good fucking deal.
oh yeah, I'll take it.
You'd take that all day, right?
Yeah,
Um, so as we're kind of transitioning conversation from your own businesses to powerlifting and now into social media, what's most exciting to you right now? Like what gets you out of bed fired up to do what you do?
uh, right now it's doing new business, new opportunities. It's exciting because of the unknown. You have like it's kind of like going to the meet, right? You have expectations, but there's no guarantee that you'll be successful. But you've done everything you can. You've done the preparation, and you just have to do your best and execute. So these businesses that I'm starting or opportunities, it's still unknown, but it's based on things that I think I'm good at or things that I think that will be successful. And I'm more of a fuck it, let's try it. What's the worst that could happen? Versus like, oh, we need to hold off and just wait a little bit. I don't. There's nothing's going to be a sure thing, no matter what. So I'd rather take chances. Not huge chances, but just somewhat. You know, somewhat educated chances that speak to me and that I'm excited about. But also, I'm not doing this alone. It's based on my experience and some of the people that I'm going to be working with. So that's kind of like what is exciting to me because for the last 11 years, my whole life has been lifter first and then business second. Now I'm kind of flipping it around and I'm excited to see uh, how far I can take business now that I can put the amount of effort and energy and passion into that versus what I put into powerlifting or lifting. Um, and I'm just way more mature and more. My lifestyle just is way more set up to do these things versus maybe 5-10 years ago when I was wanted to party and or I wasn't that big of a partier, but but just I was more lazy back in the day, we'll say, and not as mature to handle all these things. Yeah.
What do you do on a daily basis that keeps your mind sharp? Like I think the word self care gets thrown around a lot. When I say self care, like what does that mean to you? I think with business owners, it's very important.
So as a business owner, I think self care is going to be just kind of like I mentioned staying in my lane a lot. Um, I think kind of just recognizing what you're capable of and what your duties are and what your strong suits are, and not being afraid to say you don't know, or I can't do this, or I need help. Um, so that like could because that in a way is just it just from a even in a real world perspective, if you're always very passive and hold things back, it's going to build up. It's going to cause you so much internal struggle and just drain your energy, and you're not as happy. So whether that's in a relationships or just out in public, but if in work you're trying to do these things and you're just not confident, or you're or you some people fake it and try to make it, and I just think that's not necessary if you're just honest about it and ask for help. So
So it
that's
sounds
what
like self care for you is more so an element of delegation. It's like, hey, this is the job that you're asking me to do. This is actually what I'm good at. If I'm not good at it or I don't enjoy it and it still needs to be done, I'm going to hire somebody else to do it.
hire somebody else, or I need to go learn. With like so with Iron Rebel, yeah, I did learn a lot of stuff. Joining it, but there were a lot of within the growth of Iron Rebel. There were a lot of responsibilities that I took on that none of us were experienced for. I have to teach myself, learn as I go. And
What's an example of
nowadays,
something like that?
huh?
What's an example of something like that?
Um, like we weren't doing, or we didn't care about, like, or didn't know about SEO and all, like, and how we do product descriptions and how, like, keywords and all these things, and so none of us knew that, and so, like, like, even our head of our marketing, they weren't specialized in that. So luckily there's YouTube now, and there's AIs and all these things, and ChatGPT. So a lot of that I just kind of like, and Amazon and stuff like that. So a lot of that I just learned myself and picked up, and kind of like learned how to speak SEO. It's kind of in a way very commercialized, cringy a little bit, but I know the it's a necessary thing.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil. It's got to get done.
Yeah,
Um, it's interesting to me that you described it that way because I think most people describe self care in a way that's reactive. It's like,
yeah,
I have these things going on. It's making me feel this way. I have to meditate or I have to journal or I have to, I don't know, sit in a dark room and touch my butthole.
yeah.
But you're talking about it more so like, I'd much rather just take care of myself proactively and not get to that spot.
Yeah, I think just I want to have a peaceful life, and if I know myself and it's something that I know I can't do, why would I take that on? Um, if it's something I need, that needs, like, I want whatever is best for the goal in mind. That's what's going to happen. If I'm not the best person to do SEO, and I'll at least attempt it. But if I think, like, I'm just lost, I don't know how to do this. Why, it's not productive for me to just keep banging my head against the wall.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I think this is really, really important. So, at first, when people own businesses, they have to do everything. You have to be the
Yes.
marketing person, you have to be the fulfillment person. One of the things that has helped me grow has been delegation, has been
Yeah.
outsourcing, has been being able to get other people to do the things that don't require my unique skill set.
Right.
That frees up so much bandwidth for me because then I can be better at my job.
Yeah.
The trade-off here though is that I have to spend money, which means my profit margins come down. Initially, that's really a hard pill for people to swallow. But I'm sure you've learned, and I've learned, that a smaller piece of a bigger pie is still a bigger piece of a small pie, right?
Yes, that's huge. Yeah,
So
that's
how
huge.
much of
That's
that plays in?
it's huge with margins, and knowing your overall like financial stuff. Because like just because you sell an item for, let's just say, well, so knee sleeves for $100, like your profit isn't $100. Okay, okay. Let's say you bought it for $30 from your manufacturer, but it's not just $30. You have to factor in the cost of shipping and the duties and taxes, so that adds to it. And then you have to factor in like if you have a storage facility, or if you're using a fulfillment center, it costs to pay them and to pick and pack and ship. And then that's not it. If someone returns it or exchanges, there's shipping fees and all these exchange fees and restocking fees. Also, what if they try it on and it's dirty as hell and you can't really resell it? Now you're kind of shit out of luck on that product. So like all these things add to your costs that you never know about. So um, so uh, so that's where you said about delegating and freeing up on your time and all this stuff. Like I didn't know all that stuff, but that's why you need to hire or put your financials into somebody, or refer to somebody else, or you know um, consult with somebody else, or have someone come in to tell you all that. Because I think, like you said in the beginning, yet you have to kind of do it, you know grassroots, just do it all yourself. But if you want to grow, you have to learn to scale. And I've always adopted your philosophy, just like you said. I'd rather make a little bit, but with more people, or in different areas, than try to be greedy um, and try to get as much as I can out of something. So, like you said, delegating out, if your budget allows it, I think that's the best, because that's what they're specialized in. I'm not gonna, like I said, I don't specialize in sumo deadlifts, so I'm gonna help reach out to other people. So
Yeah, and I wouldn't be afraid. Like, I'll go pay $300 for a consultation with another coach who has an expertise in an area that I don't, so that I can help my client.
yeah,
Because even just in that example, so say my client is paying me $500 a month, and I spend 300 of that 500 one month to get them an answer to a question that I didn't know. But that $300 means that they're happy and they stay with me for 5 more months. Well,
yeah,
that $300 made me $2,500.
yeah, and you have that solution to whatever problem that was for future clients.
Exactly. But people are
Yeah.
so unwilling to spend the money. I went through this little exercise about, oh man, this must have been like right after COVID, when I was on Dave Tate's podcast for the first time.
Uh huh.
I was like, I'm going to hire an editor for my social media, because I'm doing all this stuff and I don't have the time and energy to clip my own reels and do this thing. And I said, okay, well, if I'm paying him $15 per reel, and it takes me 10 reels to make to get one coaching client, then my cost of acquisition is $150. So I'm still making $150 per month if I spend $150 to get that client, because I was charging $300 at the time. I was like, that's a pretty good trade off, because that's only 1 month and my average client retention is a year.
Yeah.
So I'm not really making 300, I'm making 3,600. So I'm spending $150 to make 3,600. And then I was like, why haven't I been doing this all along?
Yeah.
But people are so afraid to spend the money.
I don't. I think that's one reason, and I think others, they just don't know. I don't know if they just don't even think of it, or you know, but like I said, nowadays there's so many AI things that you could just do a monthly subscription, and that's taken care of too. But it's a little less personalized. But yeah,
Have you read the book How to Buy Back Your Time?
no,
So it's by, oh my goodness, I'll have to
I
get it
am
for you
I am
after.
I am notoriously bad at reading books. I'd rather read on.
Like an audiobook.
either audiobook, because I don't listen to music in the car. It's usually like podcasts and YouTube. So I'd rather read it, or I'd rather listen to it, or it's on my computer or on my phone. I just know I don't know. I just can't. I don't know. I just don't read books. It's hard for me.
You probably just don't sit still.
No.
So Buy Back Your Time. It's a phenomenal book. It's essentially a guide on like how to outsource.
Uh-huh.
And after reading that book, I never go to the grocery store anymore. I just get Instacart. I I pay someone once a month, once a week to come clean up the dog poop in our backyard. I pay someone to mow our lawn. I pay a cleaning lady. And I pay all these things. Why? Because if each one of those tasks is an hour of my time, and I know that I make X amount per hour of time that I'm working, I know that I'm probably 5 to 7 times more expensive per hour than the person that I'm hiring. So if I can use that time to go make more money,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah. If you're 1 hour, what you charge or you make in 1 hour, you can hire five different people to do five
Yeah.
different things in the hour. It's just 1 hour. Yeah.
How much, I mean, this is a totally off topic. How much international outsourcing do you use? Like, do you do like any outsourcing to the Philippines or anything like that for tasks, or do you
Um,
guys keep it in house for the most part,
we you're talking about Iron Rebel or
or
everything?
any of your businesses?
Yeah, I outsource to, or we in general. There's outsourced to Pakistan and China. Yeah, and Pakistan's like our like IT website guy, and he's like fast. He's just like in 5 minutes he'll respond and done. So
I don't
yeah,
think these people sleep.
no, like they're like WhatsApping me like throughout the day, and I'm like, oh, what's the time right now in Pakistan? It's like 9:50 p.m. I'm like, yeah, they're always going. Yeah,
I love that. Um, so we talked a little bit about what gets you excited. We talked a little bit about what's to come. You mentioned retiring. We didn't talk much about family. You recently got married.
yeah. So we got married last July, so it'll be coming up on a year. But that was our like, thank you. That was like our bigger wedding. We eloped in Vegas the December before that, in front of like five people. But part of that was because okay, so my wife is from China, and when we met, she was finishing up school in London. But like after dating for 4 months, we kind of knew we wanted to be together and get married and stuff. And she wanted to move to the States, but she would need a green card, and that process takes 1 to 2 years. And so we eloped that fast and got married real quick, just so that we can get that process started earlier, and then we planned out our big wedding later. So yeah, so my immediate family is just me, my wife, and our little poodle dog right
Awesome.
now. Yeah.
How do you manage the role of being a present partner as you grow your businesses? Because that's something that I run into quite a bit with the coaches I work
Yeah, I think luckily my wife has stepped up as my manager as far as all my China stuff, and she's the stereotypical, the meme or the the stereotype where like, if the waiter gets my order wrong, I just defer to my wife to like
with. Oh
take
my
care of it.
God, really?
Yeah, so my wife has no problem being the assertive ass, Karen, no, quote unquote. So she's very good like that. 'Cause, like, so when it comes to like managing and dealing with like any sponsor offers I get, she's like, I'd be too lenient and take kind of like whatever, and she's just like, nope, more, nope, more. So like we really like we're a good balance of like she's a lot more aggressive and assertive versus I'm a little more passive and conservative. So that's good. And then like she also like I made it a not a not a point, but I kind of told myself like I'm done dating like powerlifters and quote unquote competitors, whether it's bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever. And that was just for my sanity and just to like avoid any potential drama in that department, because I just know, and I've from experience too, dating other people who compete, it comes with a whole new set of like challenges. Um, but it's fun. But like I just told her like powerlifting, you're never going to be strong enough. Bodybuilding, your body's never going to look good enough. And I don't want to deal with all that mental stuff too. I don't wish that on her because she's never exhibited a super strong desire to be a good powerlifter or a
Right.
IFB pro. She just kind of like dabbles in it and just kind of is curious. But I'm just like, unless you're ready to like go full in, I don't think you need to do it. And that selfishly, that's kind of what I wanted. Um, but since she's not any of that, she does love the gym and she's consistent, and we kind of have our own routine and we kind of go to the gym at the same time. I think our schedules and our lifestyle line up, and that was one thing very important to me. Like we don't drink at all, we don't go party, so that is a big thing. Like your overall lifestyle and how you view fitness and food, even like if one partner eats like shit and the other eats really clean, it's that's a different dynamic. So that's kind of like how I think our um, our relationship is very it just lines up very well because of our lifestyles and how we handle things.
Are you good at separating yourself from business? So when you're not working, you're not thinking about work, or is that something you struggle with?
Uh, I'm pretty good at that because we talked about earlier. Like if it's not a time for business, then I try not to like put any extreme thought to it. I'm always thinking of stuff, but if it's not a priority, if it's not an emergency, then I'll just get back to it whenever I want or whenever I can. Um, yeah, I don't. It's certain things sometimes, but for the most part, no.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you?
that's lifestyle definitely needs to align. I mean, I was joking when it first happened, but so when my wife and I met, she was training for her first show,
Yeah.
and it was fine because like you first start dating, right? So everything's easy. Even though she was dieting, it was easy.
Yeah.
Uh, then we got married, and then when I decided to do my first show, she was also prepping for her next two shows. So we were both prepping at the same time, which was actually easy because you're both tired, you both don't have
Yeah.
any affection or emotion, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Then for her pro qualifier last year, I wasn't prepping at all, and she was prepping for her show, and it was so hard for me. More so emotional than anything else, because when someone's prepping for a bodybuilding show, like you get nothing from them. It's trying to get water from a rock, and you
Yeah.
understand why. But then this year, she ended up getting her pro card, and she's doing her pro qualifier. So I'm like, fuck this. As soon as you start prep, I'm gonna start prep.
Yes.
I don't care if I'm gonna do a show. I'm just gonna prep.
Yeah.
And it's been so much easier.
Good.
I've actually decided I'm going to do a show because it'll be about a year since my surgeries.
Yeah.
So I'll just get back on stage and see how good, see how not skinny I can make my legs look.
When's that going to
Um,
be?
August 23rd.
Okay.
So I'm about 12 weeks out now.
12 weeks. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So it's the relationship piece. I can say as far as the business owner goes, I personally believe that who you choose as a partner is the most important choice that you'll make in business.
Yes.
Because without that person, man, you're fucked. I know I would be.
How does your wife add to or help your business besides
You're
being there?
interviewing me now. Um, so my wife is she's a coach.
Yeah.
So and she is a phenomenal coach. When we met, she's actually working for Hybrid when we met,
Yeah.
and then decided to come on with me in May of 2022. Uh, she is one of the best coaches I've ever met. So she absolutely crushes it. She works with about 60 clients on her own. She
Wow.
also has she has a Train Heroic program that she runs as well. So she's got about 50 girls in there, and she's working on a few other offerings as well. So she does. Here's the thing: she doesn't want to do the education. She doesn't want to do the mentorship. She doesn't. She just wants to coach. So from a business perspective, for me, it's like I see her working super hard. I'm motivated to work super hard, And then we both stay in our lanes with regards to like, I handle a smaller coaching roster and I work with my mentees. She handles her coaching roster. She also helps with a ton of the administration stuff behind the scenes for the coaching business, doing
Yeah.
our invoicing and things like that, which takes stuff off my plate. And then this year we actually hired a virtual assistant. So that took some of the stuff off both of our plates to organize us behind the scenes. Um, so for me, like it works great. She's just as driven as I am to be the best
Yeah.
coach that she can be. And it makes it really easy. I'll tell you that. There's a reason why when she came on, we went from me and her to me, her and five other coaches within a year.
Yeah.
It's because that's the growth that it's been. I mean, her social media following is growing like crazy. I think she's up over 50,000 followers now, and um, I think that's only going to grow with the two pro shows this year. So it's been pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Like also like a lot of people ask me like, oh, what's it like being married? What's changed being married? And for me, I think when I got married or engaged, um, it's just my whole mindset of like everything I do is for our future. Versus like before I wasn't as driven because I was like, oh, I make enough money, I'm fine because I'm very simple. But now it's like, oh, she does have a higher higher maintenance lifestyle. So, but which I'm perfectly fine with. It's okay. But I want to provide that for her and do my best and do our best so that we can, elevate our life in every way. And she loves traveling, and that I've never been one to even think about traveling because it was always like that's going to take away from training. I need to find a good gym. Flying hurts my back. All this shit. But now I'm like, she's opened my eyes to like and now we're ready to retire. Like we want to travel all these places and we want to live in different places and be more remote and all this stuff. So she's definitely like helped me just be a lot more aggressive and ambitious than I used to be too.
I would 100% echo that sentiment. For us, I don't know if it's in the cards for you guys, but I really want to be a dad, and that's
Yeah,
something that we're committed to starting a family next year. And dude, I want to make sure that when our child is born, I can be a present father. And if you
yeah,
dropped a child into our life right now, I work way too much to be a present father. So then now that future focus that you mentioned, like how am I building this business in a way where I can operate with lower hours and maintain our income? Even
exactly.
things like, okay, when Olivia's pregnant and the first few months of that child being born, she's not going to be able to coach as many people. How are we going to manage our finances at that point? All these questions come up, and it marriage and a family to me is the biggest why that you could possibly have. Like that drive that you have when you know that your future is reliant on your ability to produce now.
Yeah,
That gets me out of bed every morning.
yeah. It's funny because lately the last 2-3 years there's been like this red pill movement thing with Andrew Tate and all these like social media, these ballers, and they're driving the world, and they have all these, and then on top of there's all these like these people fake flexing and follow my program. I'll teach you how to be rich and all those things, and then it just it makes me sad because I know people are gonna like fall for that and that appeals to them, but like even if you have a lot of money, you have cars and you have girls, like when you get home at night and you're alone, like you are alone. Like I know for a fact, like it might not be the first few months of doing that or first year, but it's going to catch up to them, and they're going to just be one day they're just be like, I am not fulfilled at all.
Dude, it is the most calming thing in the world to know that you have a person and
Yeah.
it's your person. Like we're on the same page there 100%. Let's get into let's get off the heavy stuff because I'm going to cry. Um, what's your go-to PR song?
uh Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill.
That's a common one I hear actually when I ask that question. Very common.
It is.
Um, what's the lift you're most proud of?
My squat, it's my best, and I've had the most injuries on it.
Which squat though? Which single lift?
Oh, my 400 kilo squat, 881 pounds. Yeah. Yeah, it just I was stuck at 848 for 5 years, and then I think I went up to 854, so 2.5 kilos up, and then out of nowhere the 881. So it was just one of those things that like everything clicked, and I didn't even think it was possible or in my realm, but then that prep worked so well, and and it didn't. I didn't really like. It wasn't like an RPE 10 either. So like that was just something that like yeah, it's definitely my favorite lift because it was a big milestone and it didn't like it felt pretty easy relatively. Yeah.
Yeah. If there's one person that you would like to see me interview on this podcast, who would it be? But the caveat is that you have to help me get them on.
Hmm.
Think coaching, think business.
That's possible. um. I haven't seen Ed Cohn do a long like sit down and podcast interview.
Oh, I did it. I did one with him.
Oh, you did with him?
Yeah, I did one with him.
Okay.
We
Well.
talked about his tigers.
Oh yeah, of course. Who's next? I think you should do one with Stan. Yeah, he's been kind of like off the radar a little bit now that he's in is it Guam or
Is he in Guam?
wherever his wife is from. I think yeah, he moved to I think it's Guam. It's some remote island, like
I'll
tropical. He's
send him a
just
message.
yeah, he's just chilling. He packed up everything and the island life. I think it's Guam. I have to confirm, but yeah, I think I'm interested. But more important, like I've listened to most of Stan's stuff in the past, but I want to know if like anything has changed in his philosophies, his beliefs
He's
as
one
of
who I
late.
never understood because he made a tremendous amount of money in telecom,
Yeah,
right? And then what? Why continue to try and grow businesses? Like, I'm always curious. Like, if you have a tremendous amount of success, I think I heard like we're talking like $20+ million he made on one of his businesses. I'm like, dude, if I made $20 million on something, I'm probably still going to do exactly what I'm doing right now. I would just do it a little bit less, but I
yeah.
definitely wouldn't try to start something new.
But I think the things that he started were within his wheelhouse and what he enjoyed doing. So like, and he likes obviously he likes teaching. So like him starting vertical diet, he likes talking about nutrition and helping people that way. Um, the cooler that was a little bit different, but you know, I assume too like people approach him with ideas too, and he kind of just sees if he likes it. But uh, yeah, like I said, I've made some mistakes trying to do businesses that are not in my wheelhouse. One, for example, was I tried making like a protein cookie, like a healthier version. And, I got a recipe done with like this baker and it tasted great. But like how to like keep it fresh, the cost of shipping fast and with it with like ice packs. And then if you want to like really scale it, you're gonna have to like go through all these like FDA health things and have all certain ingredients, all these things, and it was cost so much money. So like I didn't get to that part because I didn't want to go attack that. It was just too much for me. So like I spent a couple of $1,000 in the whole project, but um, I just that was one, and I just learned that like okay, that's not that's not my wheelhouse. We'll stick to where I'm at now. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, I really appreciate your time. This was insightful. It's great to learn more about you and you know see where you're at. It wasn't surprising to me having this conversation, the success that you've had with how level headed you are and how you keep things organized. So I really appreciate you sharing those lessons along the way, and I'm sure there's a ton of value for the audience here.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thanks for having me on. And anytime you want me back, I'm happy to come and share whatever I can.
I have a feeling there'll be a follow up podcast to this one.
Yeah, me too.
Everyone, thank you so much for listening. I'll have links to where you can find Andy in the show notes. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. Bye, everybody.